This is RTV6 News at 7, working for you.
And thanks for joining us here on the news at 7. I'm Mark Mullins.
And I'm Amanda Starrentino. Tonight, health officials are concerned about the continuing rise in coronavirus cases and deaths across the country. Hospitalizations are increasing in 80% of the U.S., with death tolls rising in 28 states and Puerto Rico. More states are increasing restrictions on businesses and gatherings, hoping to slow down the spread.
Today, the Indiana State Department of Health reported an additional 809 coronavirus cases and 16 deaths. Even though testing is increasing across the state, the positivity rate has held steady around 9%. 45% of the state's ICU beds and 84% of ventilators are currently available. Could Indianapolis's homeless situation be getting worse in 2020? And is the pandemic partly to blame?
RTV6's Cameron Riddle takes us downtown, where community organizers fear the problem is on the brink of getting worse.
In downtown Indianapolis, the issue of people experiencing homelessness is a problem that's hard to miss.
What's going on the Circle is a crisis. There is a homeless crisis. There is a public health and safety crisis on the Circle.
Homeless neighbors are not new to downtown, but a decrease in activity because of the pandemic is highlighting the number of people who have nowhere else to go but the street. Members of the Alliance for Homeless Transformation fear the past 5 months have only been the beginning of a massive problem.
We know that right now we have 15,000 homeless in Indianapolis. Once the moratorium on evictions comes, you will probably see 60 to 70,000 homeless in Indianapolis, because individuals are out of work and then have no way to pay their rent because they didn't have the funds before.
On Monument Circle, Giorgio's Pizza is fighting through the pandemic, but with the added issue of its homeless neighbors often sitting outside the door, or in worse cases, relieving themselves near the entrance. George Sturgiopoulos is part owner of the restaurant and says homelessness on top of COVID-19 is not a good mix.
Not only do we have a big homeless issue, we also have the COVID situation. And unfortunately, our homeless friends do not practice social distancing, and it becomes very difficult. So when somebody comes to sit at one of our tables here and somebody's hanging over them, that becomes an issue for people feeling comfortable and safe.
Sturgiopoulos is joining the growing calls to city leaders, asking for a safe place for the homeless to go, ideally a place with resources to help these neighbors get back on their feet. He stresses that the people you see here are human and, like businesses, deserve to be represented too.
A lot of people, especially a lot of our elected officials, will talk the talk, but they won't walk the walk. That's the problem. And you know, they are the leaders, and again, don't put politics in the middle of this. The day you're elected, you work for everybody. And that's what they need to realize.
Downtown, Cameron Riddle, RTV6.
The city says the pandemic created a gap in services for the city's homeless residents, leading to the temporary closure of shelters like the Reuben Engagement Center, also known as the REC, where social distancing is not possible. The city is now partnering with the REC and several organizations to use hotel rooms as an alternative for people experiencing homelessness.
We could learn on Wednesday during the state's weekly briefing whether Governor Holcomb will extend Indiana's moratorium on evictions. Right now, it's set to expire at the end of the month as thousands of Hoosiers are struggling to make ends meet. Our TV6's Megan Sanctorum explains how one church is working together and trying to reach out to help people keep their homes.
As the end of another month approaches, thousands are stuck wondering how they're going to pay their rent.
My income went from normal to 50%.
This Marion County woman asked not to be identified, but she says the pandemic has impacted her hours and income, and getting rental assistance from government programs isn't happening for her.
Still right over the limit of income to where I wouldn't get assistance for those things because I still was having money coming in.
She tells us she's gotten rid of her car and made other sacrifices, but she still wasn't able to pay rent. And she's not alone.
We've seen many families not knowing what their next option is.
Pastor Nicole Caldwell-Gross here at St. Luke's on West 86th says they've been able to help this woman and hundreds of others with rent and utility payments, and it's all thanks to donations.
We had a very generous member of our church who anonymously donated $50,000 with the condition that our congregation match that donation. And so then we were able to raise over $100,000 for rental and utility assistance.
The church will continue to work with the community and help those they can. Those receiving the help here are encouraging others to keep searching for resources because they say help like this is out there.
Really the main thing that matters, right? That we have a home and that we have food too. So between those two, I feel blessed to be able to have that.
Working for you, Megan Sanctorum, RTV6.
And if you need help paying your rent, you can find resources at theindychannel.com/rebound. On Capitol Hill, Congress is trying to hammer out a new stimulus bill, but so far negotiations are stalled. Republicans want to cut weekly unemployment payments down to $200 with a cap at 70% of a worker's previous wages, saying the current payment discourages people from working. Democrats argue it doesn't go nearly far enough. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says Republicans are not ready to seriously negotiate.
Checking now with Storm Team 6 Chief Meteorologist Kevin Gregory. A lot of sunshine out there, Kevin.
It has me smiling. It's still warm, Amanda, but at least it's not humid. And the temperature drop will be slow this evening. Just look out your window. Skies are clear. That sets us up for a comfortable night. Temperatures will fall into the 60s. We've got that to look forward to, not just tonight, but really the next 7 nights. 85 in Indy, that's only 1 degree cooler than our high temperature today. 82 in Monticello, lower 80s in Logansport. The wind calm to the south, but generally light everywhere, 5 to 10 miles per hour out of the west-northwest. As you look at the 7-day forecast, the 7 p.m. temperature now is 85, but as you go through the evening, lots of 7s once you get past 9 o'clock. 76 with a clear sky at 10 o'clock. Tomorrow morning, a refreshing start. In the 60s, we'll be at 81 at noon. The warmest day in the 7-day planner is tomorrow. We'll talk about what happens after that coming up.
Some COVID-19 survivors are telling RTV6 they tested positive long after their symptoms stopped. RTV6's Troy Washington is digging into this and explains how long you can still receive positive test results and whether you can be reinfected with COVID.
Ronald Smith took to Facebook to tell his friends about his bout with COVID-19.
I was sick from the 10th, maybe until like the 19th. That's when my symptoms started breaking.
He says the nightmare started in June, but here it is, the end of July, that he's finally feeling some relief.
I finally went this past Friday, and they were like, yeah, you're clear, finally. So it was a total of almost like 44, 45 days.
He says he took multiple COVID-19 tests long after the symptoms were gone and kept testing positive.
This is not a joke. I'd rather people stay home. I have been constantly urging my friends, please do not, because you don't want it.
Experts say it's possible to test positive long after recovering from COVID-19.
Patients can remain positive for weeks following the infection. And in fact, there's the Korean CDC report that patients were positive up to 80 days.
After recovery, the expert we spoke to says once a person is no longer showing symptoms of the virus like a fever, the person is likely no longer contagious, even though the virus might still show up in a test. The CDC suggests quarantining for 10 days after the symptoms are gone.
Once I had got it this one time, that was it. I am no more out.
According to the CDC, there are 7 different strains of the coronavirus. Smith tells us he's afraid of catching the disease again. The expert we spoke to says despite multiple strains, there's not enough research yet to say whether or not a person can be infected by the virus again.
Now, in terms of the reinfection possibility, this is something that we truly don't know, as we're learning a lot from this virus as we go.
Working for you, Troy Washington, RTV6.
Still ahead here at 7, remembering a legendary duo, a tribute to the couple known as 2 of the greatest course architects of modern golf.
But first, being a parent is a tough job. How Indiana parents are getting a hand with the virtual learning load.
This is RTV6 News at 7, working for you.
The Rebound Indiana is RTV6's mission to help you get through this pandemic, and that's inspired our newest series called Safely Back to School. We want to help you and your children return to school this year as safely as possible. I turn to educators for advice and resources for you to balance work and your child's needs. This portrait shows Lori Hargrove, a Franklin College graduate now in her 7th year of educating children, currently teaching in Wayne Township. When COVID-19 started spreading around the state, her students moved from the classroom to virtual learning.
That quick transition to e-learning was interesting and it was hard. I heard a lot of times just families say, I need help, I need help, I need help.
Lori responded to that call for help to be a support system for families. She founded Learn with Lori.
Learn with Lori was inspired just by everything that is transpiring through COVID.
An online service that eases the burden on parents and addresses the struggles that might come in this new age of e-learning. In Greenfield at Mount Comfort Elementary School,
we've actually been getting ready for school and virtual learning, in-person learning since last May.
Principal Alyssa Lockwood is offering advice for parents who may feel overwhelmed with virtual learning.
I think sometimes parents maybe feel the pressure to become the teacher, and really what we want parents to feel, we want them to feel supported from the teacher and not the need to take the place of the teacher.
Principal Lockwood urges parents to reach out to teachers.
We've prepared our teachers and given them, ideas and best practices for virtual learning. And so really we want the parents and the teachers to work together.
Lockwood says as students start this new school year, there will be an increased workload since there has been more time to plan virtual lessons than there was in the spring.
And so this year we're expecting the kids to be on doing their work every day, 5 days a week. And we expect them to have kind of a similar workload to the in-person kids.
That may be a concern for parents who not only oversee their children's e-learning time, but also work from home themselves.
My advice is to build a schedule. Carve out the day, the time that you can commit to helping your child and the time that you need to work on your things at home too.
A structured schedule to establish routine and optimize learning time. And this week, you'll have a chance to hear from Marion County school and health officials about safely reopening schools. Our partners at Radio 1 are hosting a town hall Thursday from 1 to 3 p.m. Local leaders will talk about best practices to keep your children safe. You can listen live on Hot 96.3, AM 1310 The Light, 106.7 WTLC, and the RTV6 Facebook page. Kevin.
Mark, after tomorrow, I think it's easy to recognize the trend. Temperatures warm tomorrow and then consistently cooler right on through the weekend. Details ahead. Yesterday, as you know, it was all about storms in the afternoon. Today has been a sun-filled afternoon. Still feels warm. Temperatures across central Indiana all in the mid-80s. Now that's still our temperature. And as you look at these summer temperatures, let me mention something about this winter. The Carmel Chris Kindle Market and winter ice skating rink will be closed as a result of the COVID virus. Temperatures will be cooler over the next several days here. We're in between weather systems. Notice the rain and thunderstorms just south of Green Bay. Then as you go down toward Nashville, Tennessee, some thunderstorms. High pressures are insurance marker for generally clear skies and sunshine through tomorrow. Then the southern system will start to impact us, bringing with it the best chance of rain to the southern half of the state Thursday. We'll hold on to a low chance for rain Friday through Sunday, and we'll also have consistently cooler temperatures. Tomorrow's the exception, but then Thursday through early next week and even beyond. Climate Prediction Center hinting that the temperatures remain below average here for the next couple of weeks. Temperatures tomorrow morning as cool, as refreshing. Pick an adjective you want to describe tomorrow morning's temperatures. Feel great. 62 in Columbus, Richmond, and Terre Haute. Temperatures tomorrow make their move by noon into the low 80s. We should settle in the upper 80s, but the humidity will not be as thick as what we've had over the last, couple of days, today with exception. Thunderstorms likely, as I mentioned, in the southern half of the state as we go through Thursday afternoon into Thursday evening. Temperatures in the low 80s. 7 a.m., couple of showers to the south, lots of clouds around. This is early Thursday. There's your rain having its biggest impact, Terre Haute to Bloomington and Greensburg south during the afternoon hours Thursday. A lingering shower can't be ruled out Thursday evening. Friday, chance for thunderstorms is low. Temperature, as we mentioned, will be in the low 80s. The weekend forecast not much different. Temperatures on Saturday will only hit 79. That's after starting in the 60s, but all 7 days, highs in the lower 80s, the exception tomorrow, and then temperatures in the 60s for morning lows. And although we do have that daily chance for showers and thunderstorms Friday through early next week, most of us will have pretty rain-free days. The probability of rain there just 30 to 40%, not that high.
Sounds pretty comfortable to me, Kevin. Thanks for that. We appreciate it. A Crooked Stick Golf Club in Carmel is hosting the prestigious Western Amateur this week, one of the many high-profile tournaments being played on Pete Dye courses around the globe.
The 94-year-old died last January, his wife Alice a year before that, but they leave behind a lasting legacy in golf course design, namely in Indiana, where they called home. Dave First with the Sports Extra Spotlight.
You probably just tore it apart. There's no lack of memories of Pete Dye, and certainly not of Pete and his wife Alice, two of the great course architects of modern golf. Stirred up again as Crooked Stick hosts the Western Amateur this week.
They were a great team. Alice brought a perspective that Pete didn't see, and Pete brought his genius that Alice couldn't even imagine. None of us could imagine some of the things he came up with.
It includes the famous Island Green on the 17th hole at TPC Sawgrass in suburban Jacksonville, Florida. In fact, there's a quote from Pete on the first tee of the PGA Tour's Anchor facility. Quote, "It's a great bit of personal satisfaction to be asked by the tour members to build their golf course."
For sure, probably the most familiar with Pete Dye golf courses.
Avon's Patrick Rogers gets to see plenty of Dye courses on the PGA Tour and has seen them for years, playing Pete's many designs in Indiana.
I don't think I really appreciated how quirky they could be, having grown up on so many different Pete Dye golf courses throughout central Indiana. But I definitely feel at home and kind of appreciate kind of the genius or maybe even the madness.
Rooted in a trip to Scotland in the 60s, the designs share a mixture of big bunkers, small bunkers, deep bunkers, the use of cross ties, sharp angles, combining the physical and the mental for the golfer. And the stories?
You can't put on tape.
Bobby Weed is one of Pete and Alice's famous design proteges, with courses from coast to coast, including a redesigned Culvert Academy golf course in northern Indiana, voted one of the top 9-hole courses in the country.
As great a legacy as Pete has with his golf courses, an equal legacy of Pete will be all the people that he mentored and touched and brought into this game.
From Sawgrass to Harbortown to Indiana's Brickyard Crossing, Crooked Stick, and the Pete Dye course in French Lick, Pete and Alice Dye seemingly overlook it all.
His boldness and brashness, and I've always been very proud that he's a Hoosier.
One of a kind, broke the mold, best of the modern era.
What a privilege it was to know them, and for us here at Crooked Stick, this is their baby, is what they called it, and so it's pretty special.
Leaving behind a lasting legacy. Dave First, RTV6 Sports.
RTV6 and the Indiana Black Expo want you to join us for our Hiring Hoosiers Employment Opportunity Fair. Our virtual interview space will let you connect directly with recruiters from your home office or even your phone. It's coming up on Thursday, July 30th from noon until 4 p.m. Visit IndianaBlackExpo.com to get connected.
Temperatures, they're warmest tomorrow, then they cool off a bit Thursday and Friday. Thursday is also when the thunderstorms return, especially for the southern half of the state. Let me just show you some giants from the garden. These are epic zucchini. The goal, Amanda, to create some zucchini bread.
Okay. Well, I wish you could bring some in for me. I'd love to try it out. They look great. Well, thank you for making RTV6 your choice for news. We'll see you at 11.